I smell a landslide on Tuesday. Well, I've been on the road for 19 months now, and a little over, a little over, thank you, MAGA.
So, despite the novelty of seeing my name on here next to a bubble, I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
That's it, gang. 4 days. 4 days. The countdown to a new golden age, an American renaissance begins. We've got all the latest predictive indicators for what to expect on Tuesday night. You're definitely going to want to grab a pen and paper and write all this data down. We've also got Cliff Maloney at the Pennsylvania Chase. He's coming on back with us at the top of the next hour to give us a live on-the-ground update of their amazing ballot chasing efforts and what is turning out to be an astonishing surge that's happening in probably the most important state of them all, Pennsylvania. Greetings, everyone. It is Livestream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you stay sane in these ridiculously insane up and down seesaw times. So whatever you do, you know what to do. Come on now, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Make sure to also share this video far and wide. A very happy November to one and all, and a very happy birthday to us. That's right, this channel is now officially 8 years old today. We began this channel back on November 1st, of 2016, where I posted 7 videos in a row predicting that Trump would win the election on the 8th, which he did. And I got to gloat for several weeks out. Actually, as a matter of fact, I got to gloat all my way to 1.2 million subscribers on YouTube, hundreds of thousands more on Rumble and Facebook, Twitter, and the like, and 20 million podcast downloads. And I have all of you to thank for that. I simply can't thank you enough for changing my life. I would never have imagined any of this happening when I first posted those videos. So thank you. Thanks so much to each and every one of you for making these last 8 years possible. And by God's grace, another 8 glorious years to go. As always, we got a jam-packed show for you guys today. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, you name it. Also, just a quick reminder, if you want to ask me your questions, you'll notice, unfortunately, our super chats have been suspended. We have been demonetized. So if you wouldn't mind, just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. You see it right there. Fight.turleytalks.com/join. And you can join any one of our levels of support. You have instant access to our very own virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. It will be my honor to answer them on the special birthday broadcast live stream. So just click on that link below, go to fight.turleytalks.com/join, join any level of support that you like, and you can ask me all the questions you want. It'll be an honor to answer them here on this live stream. And also don't forget Cliff Maloney from the PA Chase at the top of next hour. So here we are. 4 days away, our last live stream Friday before the big day. And I know, I know because you tell me, I know many of you are experiencing, shall we say, mixed emotions, right? We all see Trump absolutely crushing it like he did the other night in Arizona with Tucker and RFK Jr. and Nicole Shanahan. We all see that Trump is stronger than he's ever been before. We know it. We know this campaign has been second to none. It's been his best ever. It shames 2020 by comparison. Everybody sees it. Everybody in the legacy media says no one is complimenting Kamala on her campaign. Everyone sees it's an absolute disaster. Everyone sees it. And yet, we're all still so flipping traumatized from what happened in 2020. We went to bed. Trump is up 700,000 in Pennsylvania. This is it. He's got it. We went to bed. Yes, we did it. We did it. And we woke up. What the? And so many of us today are feeling this strange amalgamation of exuberant excitement, as you saw there in Arizona, mixed with a sense of foreboding terror. Is that you? Did I describe you? Let me know in the chat. Is that you? Did I describe you today? Are you a mixture of like absolute excitement, let's go get them, but it could excitement and anxiety mixed together? What I hope to do for you today in our live stream, this final live stream before our election, we've been together now. Many of you have been with me the full 8 years, probably most of you the last 4 years leading up to this day. And as many of you are newcomers, and so welcome. And again, if you're brand new, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Love to have you as a part of our community. What I hope to do for you today on this last live stream before the big day is I want to provide some grounding for you. I am your Patriot Professor. I help you stay sane during insane times. I want to provide some sanity in the midst of all of the craziness, all of the insanity going and buzzing all around us, okay? I want to give you what I believe, and again, I'm going to lay it all out. So again, as an independent content creator, I'm not going to hide behind a moniker CNN to say you need to trust me. I've got all the, no, I'm going to lay out for you as an independent content creator that's here to, that has to earn your trust. I want to give you what I believe is the true state of the race, step by step. And I believe, and again, you will have your chance to interact with this. We could go back and forth. We can debate, whatever you want to do. I believe that if we understand the true state of the race as it is right now, you're going to feel really good. I can't take away your anxiety. I mean, because that's the future. I'm not a prophet, right? I can't take away but I can minimize it. I can relativize it. I can restore some semblance of serenity in the midst of what appears to be a very tumultuous and tenuous election. Now, of course, again, none of us are prophets. I can't see into the future. I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen on Tuesday. I can't do that. But what I can do for you is I can show you what is happening right now. And the important point here is that because our elections don't take place on a single day anymore, they don't take place on election day. We don't have election day. You got for right or for wrong, good or bad, it's irrelevant. I'm being descriptive here, not prescriptive. We do not have election day anymore. We have election month. You guys know that. We have election month. But ironically, the one advantage to election month is that we actually have a pretty good sense of how this election is playing out. We got it in 2020. We knew it ahead of time. Biden was crushing crushing it by every measure back in 2020 in October in the lead up to November 3rd. He was crushing it in the polls. He was crushing it in voter registration. He was crushing it in the early election, in the early voting. He was crushing it. The fact that Trump came so close, within 40,000 votes of winning, is what was so unbelievably astonishing. So we do get a sense, though, and we did back in 2020, we do get a sense of where the election is. And what I want to do for you today in this live stream is I want to give you the full picture of where we are right now in this election. So here's how we're going to break things down in our live stream Friday. So first, I want to list out for you all the predictive indicators, all the data sets that give us a solid sense of where we are right now in this election to help us predict what we're going to see on Tuesday. Again, it is only a prediction. It is assuming past is prologue. It is assuming that the best way to predict what's going to happen tomorrow is based on what's happening today. Then I want to go over some of the possible choke points with you. The choke points. What could go wrong? How could Kamala pull this off? And then I want to look at how plausible those choke points are. They, of course, could all happen, but how likely are they to happen and why? And then we'll check in with Cliff Maloney of the PA Chase and get his take from the ground of what's happening in Pennsylvania. And then I'll turn it over to you and see what's on your mind. All right. Sound good? All right. So if you've been with this channel now for the last several weeks, you'll know there are three main election prediction indicators. There are three main election prediction indicators: the polls, the voter registration and identification trends, and the early voting. Okay. So if you're writing this down and you want to calm yourself down over the weekend, remember, you're thinking of the polls and voter registration and identification trends and early voting. Okay. So let's start with the final polls for the election. And I don't pick any poll. I don't cherry pick, but we can. And I want to show you why in a moment. We can cherry pick polls. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to zero in on one poll right now. And it is the single most accurate poll of 2020. This is the poll that called 2020 within tenths of a point of the popular vote, of how much of the vote Biden actually got. And that, of course, belongs to that wonderful, status belongs to Atlas Intel. The last Atlas Intel poll just dropped. Now, many of you, again, know Atlas Intel is a very, very accurate polling outlet. And here's what they've got. This is their final poll for 2024. The single most accurate pollster of 2020 has Trump leading Harris 49.1 to 47.2. So it's Trump +2. Also, even more importantly, Atlas Intel has Trump winning all 7 swing states. All 7. He's winning Arizona by 5, North Carolina by 4, Nevada by 4, Georgia by 2, Pennsylvania by 1, Michigan by 1, and Wisconsin by 0.3. Keep in mind, Wisconsin is notoriously hard to poll. It always polls to the left, but always votes to the right. Just keep that in mind. That's like a law of the universe. Now, interestingly, Atlas Intel swing state polling corresponds relatively loosely to the RCP polling aggregate. All right, so this is the Real Clear Politics, averaging out all of the polls, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of them. And Trump is up in all but Wisconsin, where Harris is up by 0.2. What did I just say about Wisconsin? Right? It always polls to the left, but votes to the right. Thank you, Rich Barris. He gives me all these wonderful little tidbits for you guys. So Trump is up in all the polls for the exception of Wisconsin and Michigan, where Harris is up by 0.5. The overall RCP polling average nationally is Trump 3.5, as you can see. Now, this graph, I don't know what the election wizard did. I don't know. It should be Clinton 3.2 back in 2016. It's not 1.3. I went back and checked. So Clinton, she fell. She was way ahead in the polls in 2016. And then her campaign just basically collapsed towards the end in the last couple of weeks. And she went down to 3.2. That was her lead, 3.2. The 1.3 is not right. And then, and again, this is according to the Real Clear Politics aggregate at this time in that 2016 election. Biden, as you can see, was up by 7.4, which turned out to be off by 3. Real Clear Politics was off with Hillary by about 1. What was it? 1 and change. Yeah, she ended up getting 2.1 of the vote. So, yeah, a little over 1. They were off by Biden by 3. Biden ended up winning 4.5 of the popular vote. Again, still pretty accurate within a couple of points. Another thing to remember, Trump, and we're proving the point in both 2016, 2020, Trump always outperforms his polls. I want you to write that down. You need to, when you need just a moment of serenity in the midst of all the insanity and all the crazy polls that are dropping last minute, I just want you to remember Trump always outperforms his polls by at least 2 to 3 points. That happened with Hillary. And that happened, of course, with Biden. Trump now, as we speak, according to the same methodologies, same polling, same samples, you name it, Trump is now, for the first time in his political life, is going into an election in the polling lead. And again, he overperforms his polls by 2 to 3 points. So according to both Atlas Intel, which has Trump up 2, and the Real Clear Politics average, which has him up 0.5, but he normally outperforms the Real Clear Politics polling by 2 or 3. According to both, Trump is poised to win the popular vote, which is, of course, unprecedented. We have not seen a Republican win the popular vote since 2004. And then the last time before that was 1988, both Bushes, ironically. So we've never seen this before. I want you to go into the weekend not cocky, not complacent. I want you to get men to vote. We'll be talking about that in mere moments. I want you to go into the weekend recognizing that Trump is stronger now than he has ever been by far, period. And it doesn't matter which poll you choose. You could cherry pick polls all you want. Guarantee you he's 4 to 6 points ahead in that poll than where he was in 2020. Guaranteed. I'll put money on it. So here's how the analysts over at the New York Times are surmising the state of the race. If the polling right now is basically accurate, and we are talking about the overall polling here, Trump is going to win this with 281 electoral votes. If the polling is accurate, if it correctly stated Trump's support and Kamala's support, we're going in with 281 electoral votes. In the radically unlikely event that the media was underestimating Kamala Harris, the very media that's been campaigning for her, Harris would barely squeak by with 273 electoral votes. That's probably the highest you could ever imagine of winning. If in the very likely event, if what happened in 2016 and 2020 happens again, that the polls underestimated Trump because they completely underestimate what we call the low to no prop voters, voters that have not voted in any of the last 4 elections or only voted in one of the last 4 elections, that come out en masse for Trump and they don't get polled. They get missed in the polls. If the polls underestimate Trump, we're looking at 312 electoral votes. Yes. And if Larry Schweikert is listening, yes, Larry, we know. I love Larry. You have been predicting this for literally months. Larry Schweikert is the man. He believes this is actually Trump's basement. This is Trump's base is 312. It's 312 and above. He's willing to go even beyond that. 312, if you don't know, is 6 electoral votes more than what he got in 2016 when he became the first first Republican presidential candidate since 1988 to win over 300 electoral votes. Here's another way of looking at it. This is from our good friend Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen. Mark's the best. He's giving us some solid data here. In the last two election cycles, the margin of the swing states was always about 3 to 4 points to the right of the final national popular vote. In other words, even though Biden won the national popular vote by 4.5, he only won Wisconsin by 20,000 votes. I think that was 0.4, 0.6. And he only won Pennsylvania by 80,000 votes, which again, I think was 0.9, maybe 1%. I forget. So the swing states vote on average about 3 to 4 points to the right of the final national popular vote. And keep in mind that trend held in 2020. I want everybody to remember that. And this is not 2020 anymore. 2024 is a very different electorate than 2020. Okay. So right now, according to both the most accurate pollster 2020 and the RCP aggregate that lumps all the polls and averages them out, Trump is ahead in the national popular vote. So that means that the swing states are poised to go Trump by another 3 to 4 points. Now, if you want to put this into some historical context, because I know you're going to see it, you're going to see some polls drop. Oh, it's Kamala by 10. Ah! That's the latest Roanoke in Virginia. It's Kamala by 10. It's Kamala polls. You're going to get that. Okay, it's going to happen. They're going to drop that over the weekend. If you want to put this in historical context, this comes by way of pollster Rich Barris, our good buddy. At this time in 1980, this weekend, the CBS poll had Reagan up by 2. The Gallup poll had Reagan up by 3, and good old USA Today had Carter up by 2. So on average there, you average that out, that's only Reagan up by 1 or 2. That's it. So as far as the polls were concerned, Reagan and Carter were neck and neck with a slight advantage for Reagan, and we all know what happened next. Now, I'm not suggesting that Trump is about to win 46 states like Reagan did. We live in a different country than that was back then. But close polls can end up concealing the makings of a massive landslide like Robert Kennedy Jr. was talking about. So that's why it's so important to understand the polls in light of two other predictive indicators, which are voter registration and identification trends and the early vote. That's going to help us look under the hood and see what's really going on. First, before we get in there, gang, if you're just joining us, remember, if you want to ask me your questions, because our super chats have unfortunately been suspended, just click on that link below, join any one of our levels of support, and you have access to our virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Also, I've come across something that has, I got to tell you, and I'm so excited to share this with you. I've come across something that's revolutionized my life, and it's called Beam Dream. And I love this, okay? It has completely changed the way I sleep. I sip a nice hot cup of Beam Dream, and I kid you not, I'm out like a light. I have the most restful sleep ever all throughout the night. Okay, I can't sleep. I'm a terrible sleeper. I toss and turn. It takes me, if I don't do Beam Dream, it takes me about, I don't know, 2 hours to fall asleep every night. Once I hit the bed, as my brain doesn't shut off. I sip a nice, hot, rich cup of Beam Dream, gang. I'm out like a light, and I sleep all. I sipped it last night, and I feel great. By the way, you don't feel tired or like groggy the whole next morning. I feel refreshed. I'm ready to take on the day. I just had Beam Dream, 12, not even 12, a little more than 12 hours ago. And they are offering you guys, our Turley Talks listeners, an exclusive discount. Get this, a discount of up to 50% site-wide for limited time. So just click the QR code on the screen. If you're going to have hard time because of all your anxiety sleeping on Monday night, the night before the election, you have got to get this right now. Get it shipped like overnighted to your house. Just click on that link down below or scan the QR code on the screen. Use the link. below. Get the best night of sleep you've had in years and propel your wellness journey to the next stage. Absolutely amazing stuff. Again, click that QR code. Go to shopbeam.com/Turley. That is shopbeam.com/Turley Talks. I'm sorry, Turley Talks. Shopbeam.com/Turley Talks for this amazing 50% off site-wide discount. You're going to love them. You're going to love them. I was a skeptic at first. One of my colleagues here said, "Oh, you got to try this Beam Dream. It's amazing." All right, well, let's try it out. I try out our sponsor stuff, of course. I don't want to give you anything that I haven't tried. And I tried out. I was like, I'm sold. This stuff is amazing. I can't believe it. I am out, and it feels so comfortable. I love going to bed just kind of, that drowsy sort of, and I read a little bit, but I barely get through a page. I'm out. I'm gone all throughout the night. I wake up bright early in the morning, ready to rock and roll. You guys are going to love it. Beam Dream. I love these guys. So let's go to voter registration and identification. Now, I know a lot of you, I know that a lot of you already know that Republicans have absolutely crushed it in voter registration, every single state except Colorado for whatever reason, But Republicans have gained in voter registration every single state for the sole exception of Colorado. I believe Iowa, for example, has 99 counties. All 99 have shifted right since 2020. All 99 have shifted right. In Pennsylvania, 67 counties, 64 of the 66 have all shifted right, which means that the electorate right now is much, much more Republican than it was 4 years ago. Okay, got to get that. It's another thing to write down. The electorate is much more Republican than it was 4 years ago. Now, again, we can see that in the polling. Based on what we're seeing in the aggregate polling, the electorate has shifted 4 to 6 points to the right since 2020. Again, you need to write that down. The electorate in 2024 has shifted 4 to 6 points to the right since 2020. So you could see it with the RCP aggregate. So Biden won the popular vote by 4.5. So we're taking an actual number of the actual popular vote, the makeup of Biden. It was a Democrat plus 4.5 in 2020. So we're not relying on cherry picking. Nope, 4.5 2020. The polling aggregate now, according to the RCP, so that is a polling aggregate, but RCP traditionally is the most accurate way of understanding and predicting the popular vote. The polling aggregate is plus Trump for 0.5. So you got plus Biden 4.5 in 2020. Now you've got a plus Trump 0.5 in 2024. That is a 5-point swing to Trump. So this electorate is 4 to 6 points, on average 4 to 6 points more Trumpy than it was in 2020. We are seeing that same pattern in voter identification. Okay, so we've seen voter registrations move 4 to 6 points to the right, the electorate to the right. But what's even more important is we're seeing that same pattern in voter identification. Okay. Now, the difference here is that voter identification is actually more important than voter registration. Voter identification is when you're asked, including independents, how do you lean? How do you plan on voting in this election? And then you determine how many Republicans versus Democrats. Registration is a lagging indicator, okay? Voter identification, how do you lean, is a leading indicator. That's how voters feel now. They often identify with the party long before they formally register with that party. Okay, so voter registration numbers, voter registration is a lagging indicator. Voter identification is a leading indicator. What we are finding with the latest voter identification survey is that, and that's coming from Gallup. If you don't know, Gallup has found that voter identification is the single most accurate predictive metric for the popular vote that we have. Voter identification surveys since 2008, in the last 4 elections, voter identification surveys by Gallup came within 1 point of predicting the popular vote outcome for the last 4 elections. Okay. That's pretty darn accurate. And here are the numbers. The fall average, so this is a rolling average. Again, it's not cherry picking polls. The fall average, the average of the last few months for party identification going into November 5th forecasts a Republican +2 electorate. Republicans win the voter identification survey for the first time ever. We have never seen a voter identification survey ever. Let's see what we got. Yep, we got Republicans up 4 from last time. We've never seen, Gallup has never seen a voter identification survey that had a plus Republican result. It was always plus Democrat. So Democrats were +8 in 2008. They were +5, if I recall, in 2012. They were +3 in 2016, and Hillary did win the popular vote by 2.1. And they were +5 again with Biden, and he won the popular vote by 4.5. This is the first time Gallup has ever found a +2 Republican electorate, which means, as Robert Barnes has pointed out, we are seeing the single most Republican electorate ever. Barnes is calling it the most Republican-friendly electorate we've seen in the modern era. So Gallup has an R+2 electorate, which signals around a Trump +2 national vote win. And again, I want to reiterate, the Gallup voter identification survey has been the single most accurate predictor for the popular vote for at least the last 3 decades. It's predicted the popular vote winner to within a point of accuracy since 2008. And it's forecasting, in line with all those other forecasts, it is forecasting a Trump +2 national win. So just from that predictive indicator alone, can you put that back up, guys? I don't know if you have that slide from Barnes, just so people can see. Yeah, if you can, if just from that, there you go, so people could see it a little better. Just from this predictive indicator alone, in terms of Gallup and a +2 Republican national win, we're looking at 10+ point wins for Trump in Florida, Texas, Ohio, and Iowa. And by the way, we're already seeing that, particularly in Florida and Texas, that have had early voting, and it is through the free. It is a bloodbath. We have never seen early voting like this in Florida. In Texas, I think we're going to see it again in Ohio and Iowa. Iowa, by the way, is very important for Wisconsin, because Wisconsin, as our good friend Seth Keshel has pointed out, the data analyst, Wisconsin never votes more than 9 points to the left of Iowa. So if Iowa's clocking in at 11, we're looking at a Trump +2, at least in Wisconsin. So we're looking at a 10+ point win for Trump in Florida, Texas, Ohio, and Iowa. We're looking at a 5+ point win in North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona. And we're already seeing that. We'll find that out in a moment. And we're looking at a 3+ point win in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada. And very close races. Remember, this is what Seth Keshel is calling the new swing states. We'll see. Again, we'll see how that plays out. But very close races within 1 or 2 either way in Maine, New Hampshire, and Minnesota. Remember, Minnesota votes to the right of Virginia. So if she's struggling in Virginia, Minnesota may be in play. Now, right here, let's take a step back now. Lots of stuff. That's why I said take out your pen, pencil, whatever you got to, my red pen from my grading days as a prof. But with just the polls and the voter registration and identification trends, with just those 2 indicators in place, right here, we can actually take a step back and get a very good sense of where this election is right now, okay? Trump lost 2020 by a mere 40,000 votes. He lost it by 10,000 in Arizona, 10,000 in Georgia, 20,000 in Wisconsin. So those are the lowest hanging fruits, as it were, from 2020 for Trump. 10,000, 10,000, 20,000. Here's the bottom line of what we now know. We know just from the polls and the voter registrations. Kamala is in the position of trying to hold on to a 10,000 vote lead in Arizona, a 10,000 vote lead in Georgia, and a 20,000 vote lead in Wisconsin, even as the electorate has shifted 4 to 6 points to the right. I want you to get that down. Okay. If we just take the RCP, the Real Clear Politics national average, right? That's gone from a Biden plus 4.5 to a Trump plus 0.5, right? That electoral shift of 5 points to the right. If 150 million people vote, as is the estimate, that would be a shift of 7.5 million votes over to Trump. So basically, Harris is trying to hold on to a 40,000 vote lead for 2020 with an electorate that has shifted to Trump now by several million. Can she do it? She's trying to hold on to literally a 0.1, 0.2 lead in Arizona and Georgia and a 0.6 lead in Wisconsin as all the polls have shifted 4 to 6 points over to Trump. So with just the polls and the voter identification trends, just those two predictive indicators, we can get a pretty good idea of the current state of the race right now. And again, by the way, no amount of blah, 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 blah that's coming from CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times or the hysterics from the doomers, nothing at all changes that equation. Can Kamala hold on to a 40,000 vote lead as the electorate shifts 4 to 6 points to the right? It's bottom line, gang. Bottom line. And so with those predictors in place, we can clearly see that everything is favoring Trump overwhelmingly. Polls, voter registration, identification. And so it should be no surprise that we're seeing this play out in the early voting. So let's go to our third predictive indicator here, all right? Let's talk about early voting. So as we speak already, if you could believe it, 50 million Americans have voted. That's more than a third of the estimated vote. But the two key states for us that we want to focus in on are Arizona and Nevada. Who knows? Who could put, why are we doing Arizona and Nevada? Put it in the chat. Why Arizona and Nevada? It's because Arizona and Nevada overwhelmingly vote early. Upwards of 80 to 90% of their votes are cast as early votes. Election day, it's only about 10%, 15%. So we're already seeing the election play out in real time right in front of our very eyes. Election day has basically been stretched out over the course of 3 weeks or so in these two states. So that's why Arizona and Nevada are so important for understanding how the polls and the voter registration trends are playing out in real time. They're also important from the fact, again, this is that foreboding fear, they both went Biden in 2020. That's also what that's not inconsequential. They're not only just telling us how this election is playing out in real time, since we are watching 80 to 90% of their population vote now early, but these are two states that Biden took in 2020. These were they both went blue. How are they doing now? Well, as we look at Arizona and Nevada, we're looking at two things. We want to see how the parties are voting, Republican versus Democrat, and we want to see who is voting among them. So we want to see how the parties are voting, what the percentages of each party, what they're getting, and who is voting among them. And I'll show you that second part, the who. I'll show you why that's so important. So first, how are they voting? How are they voting? Let's start in Arizona. It is literally a bloodbath. And I'm not even remotely exaggerating here. We have never seen the Republican Party post early vote numbers like this anywhere save Arizona. Remember, this is the state that Biden won by 10,000 votes. Right now, as we speak, the state that Biden won by 10,000 votes, I'm going to sear that in your brain. The state that Biden won by 10,000 votes. That state right now, Arizona, Republicans are leading with over 163,000 votes. Let that hit you. 163,000 votes. We've gone from a 10,000 vote Democrat lead to 163,000 Republican lead. We'll be talking about independents in a moment. If Republicans continue on this trajectory, they are poised, along with, I believe, their independent fellow patriots, they're poised to win Arizona by 300,000 votes. It may indeed go above the 6-point margin of victory, which is going even above the electoral shift of 4 to 6 points to the right. What did Mark Mitchell say about swing states? Darn, I forget. What are they? Oh, swing states. Yeah, they always swing 3 to 4 points to the right of the national vote, which is swung 4 to 6 points. What do you know? A 300,000 point lead or win in Arizona would be upwards of about an 8-point win. So then that raises the question of who is voting. Not just how people are voting, Republicans versus Democrats, it's who is voting. And again, like I said, I'll get into independents in a moment. And this is where we call no prop to low prop voters come in. This is where the low prop to no prop or no prop to low prop voters come in. So a no prop voter is a no propensity voter, a voter that has not voted in any of the last 4 elections. And a low prop or low propensity voter is a voter that's voted in only 1 or maybe 2 of the last 4 elections. Now, why is that important? Again, put that in the chat. What's the word that's often used? What happens if you have too many high propensity voters who have voted in the last 4 elections, too many high propensity voters voting early? What happens? You put in the chat, you cannibalize your vote. You cannibalize your vote. You have no guarantee you have that many more voters left to come out and vote on election day. You can't rely on low to no prop voters on election day. Why? Because they're low to no. They are by definition irregular, unreliable voters, having voted in only 1 or none of the last 4 elections, right? Makes sense? So this is why it's so important to understand not just how the parties are voting, but who is voting. Feast your eyes on this. In Arizona right now, the Republicans they have for like ever, but they continue to lead among all no to low prop voters. 0 out of 4, 1 out of 4, 2 out of 4 of the last 4 elections. These voters are inordinately, overwhelmingly voting Republican, which means that the Democrats are using up more of their high prop voters in the early voting, which, by the way, is the pattern for Democrats. Diehard Democrat voters tend to vote early, and they amass this huge vote lead, which we call their firewall, and the dominant Republican election day turnout sometimes can overcome that firewall, but as we learned the hard way in the past, oftentimes fall short. What makes 2024 so unique is now Republicans are showing early vote dominance. But what makes it even better is they're showing that dominance with low to no prop voters. So their high propensity election day diehard voters have yet to come out in mass. You know, keep in mind, this is how Obama was able to win such a massive landslide back in 2008. What we saw in 2008 was an influx of a massive amount of new voters that overwhelmed the system and turn that race into a rout, as Darvio Morrow puts it. It was a great tweet he put out there. And so if Trump continues to turn out these low to no prop voters, who, by the way, don't get polled, they're not on the polling database because they're not voters. If he turns them out the way Obama turned them out, which it looks like he's doing, this could be an absolute landslide. I smell landslide, as RFK Jr. said. So that's why I showed you the Reagan-Carter polls. The polls often, they only show, one level of the race. You've got to get more granular. You've got to look at things like no to no prop voters, see what's really going on under the hood, as it were. Now, let's take a look at Nevada. Remember, no Republican presidential candidate has won Nevada since 2004 in 20 years. Again, feast your eyes on this. With just 4 days left, the Republicans have amassed a near 50,000 vote lead, 47,295 votes, which translates into a 5% margin of the current vote. So if we calculate those numbers in relation to 2020, when Biden had a 40,000 early vote lead at this exact same time, that's a near 90,000 vote swing to Trump, which represents what? Well, what do you know? A 6-point swing. Imagine that. How are the polls swinging out? Yeah, 4 to 6 points nationally, right? So we could see similar dynamics in Arizona. Republicans are dominating. They're dominating by around the same margin, which was predicted by the polling and voter registration trends. Again, when all is said and done, this election comes down to whether Kamala can maintain Joe's 40,000 vote lead, even though the electorate has shifted 4 to 6 points to the right. That's the election in a nutshell. And once again, Nevada, Republicans are leading among no to low propensity voters, which means Democrats aren't just losing, but they're losing with their higher propensity voters, which means they're burning more fuel as the Republicans still have plenty left in the tank to go. Again, I got to reiterate, no matter what happens with early voting, Republicans always end up dominating the election day vote. I mean, dominating. In Pennsylvania, they're projected to be upwards of plus 20. So when all is said and done, we have to ask the question, what happened to the Democrats? How did their early voting, particularly their early vote by mail, collapse like this? Well, I think the most plausible thesis that a few analysts have been arguing is that so many of those early mail-in ballot votes back in 2020 were low to no prop voters. But they're not coming back for the Democrats. In other words, the Democrats did effectively in 2020 exploit low to no prop voters in that election cycle. But as it turns out, they're one and done. It could be the lack of the special condition of a pandemic. It could be the lack of Zuckerbucks that got them out or got their ballots out. It could be the lack of Democrat ballot chasers. Whatever it is, the low to no props that somehow ended up voting overwhelmingly for Biden in 2020 are not showing up for 2024. I think it's that simple. Robert Barnes has been hypothesizing that now for months. The turnout for Democrats in 2020 was basically, as it turns out, it was an artificial, astroturfed turnout. It was fabricated around a very special, peculiar, unique circumstance that they're simply not able to reproduce in 2024. Whereas Trump's vote, which was massive, more votes than any incumbent ever received in history, looks like it's coming out again. And it looks like it may even be bigger than that. I mean, in many respects, that's the way we have to understand what's happening here. Republicans are voting as if it's 2020 all over again. We got to get out there and vote and vote and vote and vote. Democrats seem to have slipped back to 2016 levels. Democrats seem to have slipped down to 2016 levels. Trump is at 2020 levels. Democrats are at 2016 level. I think that's how this is playing out. So what we have to understand here, as best as I understand it, when it comes to the three major predictive indicators, Trump is crushing it in the polls. He's crushing it with voter registration and identification. And he's crushing it in the early voting in the two states who overwhelmingly vote early. So now that raises the question, what can go wrong? So hopefully you've got all the data in front of you. And then, of course, little worry work comes in and goes, but 2020, what could go? What do we do with this sense of foreboding terror? What could go wrong? Well, that's what we're going to look at next. But first, gang, our country witnessed a moment we will never forget. We saw a man get shot, stand up, fist in the air, and defiant scream out, "Fight, fight." Now, sadly, too many of us have lost our fight. And that's exactly what globalists want. They want us weak, out of shape, and full of estrogen and microplastics. So this is why we're so excited to partner with Chalk. Chalk offers a whole lineup of products formulated to increase your energy, your focus, detoxify your body, and based on clinical studies, boost your testosterone. In fact, the ingredients in the Chalk Male Vitality Stack have been clinically studied to boost free testosterone by 87% in just 21 days. Unlike with gimmicky vegetable pills or powder, you're going to feel the difference, and they have the clinical studies to back it up. And right now, you can get 25% off your Chalk subscription for life. You heard that right, for life. Just go to chalk.com. That's spelled CHOQ.com. Use the promo code TURLEY. That's 25% off any subscription for life, and you can cancel at any time. Chalk is made in America, and their all-American customer service team is standing by to assist you. It's time to make men's vitality great again. Get Chalk today. That's chalk.com, CHOQ.com, promo code TURLEY. You can text or call them at 50-CHALK, CHOQ 3000. That's 50-CHOQ 3000. All right, so what can go wrong? Oh, you know what? Before we get into that here, is Cliff in the studio? Do you want to bring out Cliff of PA Chase? Yes, why don't we let's bring out the man, the legend. Let's bring out Cliff. There he is. Oh, dang, dude. Great to see you, man.
It is wild out here, Steve. I'm gonna start with that once again. That's my new line on your show. I'm out here in Delaware County, PA today. I'm headed to Lancaster tonight, Pittsburgh tomorrow. We're nonstop, man, until Tuesday, 8 p.m.
I know. I follow your ex. You're going 24/7. It's amazing what you're doing there. The numbers are coming out in Pennsylvania. I know you're seeing them. They're absolutely stunning. You said at the beginning that you've been saying this for months now. If the Republicans can get 33% of the early vote returns in, if we can hit 33%, we got this. That's the number we need, because Republicans come out en masse, like by 20-point margins on election day. I'm sure you know this. I don't know if you've seen the latest on this, but it's I got the last batch coming in 36.6%, 37%, dude. 37.
Look, I don't want to gloat. I want to be humble. But what's hilarious, Steve, is now hearing the Democrats change their narrative. Right? Look, let me make this as simple as I can for all of your listeners out there. Joe Biden beat Donald Trump when it came to mail-in votes by 1.4 million. And right now, we're looking at returns based on party. Kamala Harris has less than 400,000 more returns than Donald Trump. Now, all of a sudden, this 1.4 million vote firewall that they had in 2020 is now, well, we're just trying to get to 400,000. Listen, if that's their narrative and they claim they're going to turn these people out on election day, then by all means, go for it, right? We're going to keep chasing the ballots. We're going to keep running up the score. And people told me to keep the number on pace with 2020 was impossible. Well, we're practically doing it on the Republican side. The Democrats are having this huge drop-off. You and I have talked about it. All of your listeners have heard this before. But they have this huge drop-off, and so they have to change their narrative. Our narrative is we're keeping with the so-called pandemic era levels. That's what we're able to keep because of the work that we're doing. And Steve, I always want to ask your folks, this is not just about our 120 full timers on the ground. To you, the people watching, if you want to come to Pennsylvania, if you want to talk to the people that are going to decide the future of the country because PA decides the White House, come join us. We'll put you up in a hotel. We'll give you gas cards, pachase.com. And my pitch is still the same as it has been for 6 weeks. If you can't come out, sponsor somebody that can come out. $175 pays for a whole day. All that money goes to them. It's pachase.com. And I got to tell you, Steve, it's exciting out here. I mean, we are talking about numbers that no one said we could pull off, but we can't get cocky. If you haven't voted yet and you're in Pennsylvania or any of these swing states, make a plan to vote. This isn't something where we say, oh, it's good. No, we beat Biden by 1.3 million votes on election day. We need that type of huge turnout to overload the system and make it too big to rig.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it, Cliff. Yeah, I got the other stat I've got here is the Democrats amassed a firewall margin of 52% in 22. That was their margin. It was massive. Their firewall margin now, 26%, halved, completely halved. Our good buddy, Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen, he did some pretty extensive polling in Pennsylvania, found that 30% of Pennsylvania Democrats say they've already voted. Only 20% of Republicans have said they've already voted. So plenty of gas left in the tank for election day. Is that what you're seeing? Are you seeing a lot of people who are just ready to just crush it on election day?
You know, I couldn't admit this a couple weeks ago because I was trying to really inspire and to persuade people to vote by mail, right? But look, I'll be very forthcoming about this. There are a lot, and by the way, I'm not talking about regular election day voters, right? But of course, we got lots of pushback at the door, even from 0 of 4, meaning people that have voted in 0 of the last 4 generals that are hardcore Trumpers that said, no, I'm not voting by mail. I'll vote on election day, which is fine by us, right? Then we note that we have the data. And now we're following up with them, making a plan for them to be at the polls on Tuesday. And so I think there is still tons of that. It doesn't mean that these folks are not reliably going to show up. It's just that we're making sure that if you say you're going to vote on election day, you actually do it. But yeah, I mean, I think I don't want to set a prediction on a number, but I think the idea of Kamala Harris going from the 2020 model of them just running up the score on early voting and then getting decimated on election day, and now trying to do a little bit of both, like, oh, well, we'll win mail-in ballots by 400 or 500,000, depending on where we land the next couple of days, and then we're going to compete on election day. You got to pick your team. You got to pick your battle.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think that they understand what it takes to turn out millions of people on election day when you've changed your whole infrastructure. Good luck. I wish the Democrats good luck.
No. Imprecatory prayers, voodoo, cast voodoo spells.
Grab bear 3 times. There we go.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the stats in Philadelphia is just are abysmal. People just aren't coming out. They're not. They just don't see. We'll be talking about this a little bit later in the live stream with my audience here, but there's a lot of concern. Men aren't coming out to vote. One of the reasons for that is because men generally do not come out to vote early. They come on election day. I've always voted on election day, but also because Black men have gone down considerably in the electorate. They're just not that. They're not jazzed about Kamala. So you look at the numbers coming out of Philly. I mean, they're abysmal.
Well, I got into a heated exchange yesterday. I was in Center City, Philly, BBC, and I actually give BBC credit. They were fair. The reporter was actually pretty fair. Even he was listening to this Democrat city councilman and was just kind of like, what? What are you saying? But it's funny how they cope with this idea that they are just really not inspiring. I mean, the enthusiasm gap is real. It's not just a talking point, right? I mean, we have 25 Black PHAs door knockers who are on the ground in some of these areas that I would consider, kind of the areas where you find a lot of these Black Republicans, Black independent voters, even moderate Democrats that are Black, and they're targeting them, and the response from the city councilman is, how are you as a white man know that there are Black support? I'm like, dude, I have 25 of my teammates giving me daily reports. Oh, and by the way, not that I'm judging them, but by the way, you asked me based on the color of my skin. They happen to be black because we're smart about where folks target. And I said, they're giving me daily feedback. And the BBC host even turned to him and said, do you have 25 people that you're talking to? You're just like, well, I'm from here. I'm like, dude, I'm from Delco. Like, I don't need to hear it from you. But these folks that come from these radically blue areas, Steve, it is such a bubble. He's not used to a Republican or anybody pushing back on him.
Right.
And so it was a fun interview, but it goes to show you they are seething. They are trying to figure out how they change the narrative. And at the end of the day, the votes will do the talking.
Right.
I kept bringing up numbers, and he wanted to scream about January 6th. I kept bringing up some of these facts that even the left has had to admit to. And he keeps bringing up, that immigration is a distraction and that there was a problem under Trump. It's like, dude, take a breath. But we're going to see these things continue to happen, Steve. I think once the votes come in, all the yapping will be over, and we'll know where we stand.
Right. I don't want you. I don't want to keep you from knocking on doors here and chasing down those ballots. This is not over. We've got 4 days. You did give a little bit of a pitch here, but Cliff, bottom line, what do you need from our audience? We are here to help you. How can we help you?
Yeah. So once again, the two things. One, if you can come to PA or you're in PA and you want to join us, whether it's in York, whether it's now Allegheny, whether it's in southeastern PA, up in Luzerne County or Erie County, pretty much anywhere in the state, if you can help, we need your help. pachase.com/sprint is where folks who want to knock in our final sprint can go. Fill out your information. We'll follow up within 2 hours and get you set up. If you can't come out, sponsor one of those folks who's joining us. Every $175 that we get today means we can bring out an additional person and we can have them for a full day of ballot chasing. That's at PA, like Pennsylvania, pachase.com. Steve, I appreciate your audience. I appreciate you. You're a patriot. And when we win this thing, I'm going to owe you a cup of coffee, but I owe everybody out there that has chipped in, that has chased ballots. This is a team effort. We're all singing from the same song sheet, and we're going to win PA.
Again, click that link below. You see it going across the screen there, pachase.com. Donate the last amount you can to help Cliff deliver Pennsylvania for Trump. 4 days, gang. That's it. Click on that link. Leave it all on the field, as it were. You say you owe me a cup of coffee. Dude, we love you. There are no words that can even express how grateful we are for all of your amazing efforts, Cliff. You're the best, man.
I appreciate you guys. You and the whole team. Steve's got a great team around him, too. I got to give those guys and gals a shout out. But I'm going to get back out here and chase ballots. Let's win this thing. We'll see you on November 6th.
Love you, Cliff. Thanks so
Take
much
care.
for joining us. Dang, man. There is Cliff Maloney. What an amazing guy. Yeah, you guys definitely want to make sure you get involved with PA Chase if you can. That would just be, I mean, just think about spending the last weekend before the greatest day ever. Just imagine just what that would be like to be able to spend it with Cliff, and chasing ballots, just 4 days out from the election, few days out from the election. It is amazing. It's absolutely incredible. All right, gang. So what could go wrong? I know a lot of us are worried about what could happen. And there are some scenarios where, we everything that I shared with you can be eclipsed. Keep in mind, everything I just shared with you is happening now. It's not conjecture. There's no conjecture in what I gave to you. Everything that I gave you is hard data. It's happening now. But there is some conjecture. Well, maybe there's some. So what are some of the foreboding choke points that we need to be aware of? Well, one thing that could go wrong, and it's all over the internet right now, particularly in our circles, and it's men. The concern is that it's going viral, that it's a panic claim that men aren't voting. The assertion here is that early vote electorate is made up predominantly, overwhelmingly of women, and that means Kamala is going to win because women overwhelmingly vote Democrat. And even the Democrats have pounced on that, going, woohoo, all the momentum surging over to us because women are voting, women power. Now, I got to be honest with you. This is just more dooming when all is said and done. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Anything to get more men out to vote. Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. We don't want to be complacent. Anything to get out more men to vote. Absolutely. Great. If this is what it takes to get more men to vote, sure. I'm all for it. But don't doom. Please, audience, don't doom. Don't doom. Don't doom. Fight, don't flee. All you got to do is literally take 3 seconds to do a little research on what early voting gender patterns have always been in previous elections. Exactly what we've been doing this entire live stream. You look to previous elections to see, is there a pattern? And the pattern is early voting always leans female. Always. And this year, it's no different, but it is a bit more pronounced precisely because Black men are voting less, just like I was talking about with Cliff. It's Democrat men that are falling off. Urban areas are simply not voting in big numbers. Like I pointed out to Cliff, Philly's down huge right now. And it looks at this point, like Cliff is saying, it looks like it's too late, 4 days out from the election. This is not good. This looks like it's the official pattern. Kabbalah's vote is not showing up. So while Black men are most certainly voting, while Black women are most certainly voting, they certainly are, and they're helping to drive up those numbers and may even make those numbers inordinately Democrat, so are Republican women. Republican women are voting in particularly Trumpy districts and counties, and they're voting at higher rates. You see, what's so key here is that GOP-leaning men have always historically preferred election day voting. Like I said to Cliff, I'm one of them. I've never voted early in my life. I've been voting for 30 years. I've never voted early a day in my life. I've only voted on election day. The only underperforming group among the electorate right now is younger Democrat-leaning Black men. So by all means, go out and get more men to vote. I'm not going to stop you doing that, by all means. But don't doom over it, please, gang. Again, the numbers coming out of Arizona and Nevada don't lie. That's the election. That's the election day spread out over 3 weeks. That's it, Arizona and Nevada. Republicans are crushing it. 2 blue states are deep red right now. And our high propensity Republican male vote has yet to come out en masse to finish the job and drive the last nail into that coffin. So hopefully I just put that, oh no, men aren't voting, panic to bed. Yes, they are. They're voting at about the same level. They've always voted in early voting, with a slight dip being accounted for by the paucity of young Black men voting because they don't like Kamala. Can you blame them? A second choke point, of course, is concerns over election integrity. That is, of course, another that's another thing that can go wrong. But again, they're getting caught. And they're getting caught like literally everywhere. And that's what we want. We want them getting caught. That's why we had our guest on last Monday night, the Lancaster County Commissioner, to give us the latest on their investigation into this alleged voter registration fraud. Several counties throughout Pennsylvania have caught them red-handed. So the fact that they're getting caught means that it's going to be much harder for anything like that to get pulled off in 2024. Another concern is independents. Maybe independents are breaking significantly for Harris. So, okay, Republicans are up huge, 160,000. Yeah, but there's also 600,000 independents. Maybe they're going to break hard for Harris. The problem here, again, historically, independents tend to go where the momentum is. They went with Obama in 2008. They went with Bush in 2004. They went with Trump in 2016. Independents tend to mirror momentum. Independents tend to mirror momentum. And so what's so interesting here is that the one exception to this, even back in 2020, was Nevada. As the country moved left, ironically, Nevada moved right. They sided with Trump, the independents in particular. And it looks like they're moving even more to the right in this election. Nevada has been creeping to the right in every single election cycle for the last, I think, 3 or 4 elections. Here's an interesting analysis of Pennsylvania. CNN's exit polling, they just shared for their viewers. It showed that Pennsylvania thus far, Harris has gotten 57% of the early vote. We should expect that, right? They're up by 25%, right? Harris has gotten 57% of the vote, early vote, and Trump has gotten 40%. Now, if you know your numbers well, you'll know that on the surface, that looks good for Harris. That's clearly what CNN wanted to convey. But what CNN doesn't tell you is that only 35% of the early vote is Republican. It's 55% Democrat, 35% Republican. But Trump is getting, according to CNN and their exit polling, 40% of the early vote in Pennsylvania, whereas Kamala is only getting 57%. Trump is getting 5 more than the Republican percentage. Kamala is only getting 2 more than the Democrat percentage. That means independents are leaning towards Trump by a very significant margin. And this before the Republicans come out and vote in mass on election day, as they always do in Pennsylvania. So whether it's Nevada or Arizona or Pennsylvania, all the data suggests that independents are actually breaking for Trump in 2024. That's where all the momentum is. Even Elon, he just said that the other day. He said that in 2020, every independent voter he knew was voting for Biden, including him, by the way. He was a Democrat who voted for Biden, but every independent he knew was voting for Biden. Now, every independent voter he knows is voting for Trump. All the momentum is moving in his way. And remember, independents tend to mirror momentum. Now, of course, that comment there is anecdotal, but it's another predictive indicator. It signals where all the momentum is. Think of it this way. Here's another way to kind of put it all together. If Democrats aren't particularly enthused about Kamala, and they're obviously not because they're not coming out in the numbers that they need in early voting, that we're nowhere near where Democrats were in 2020 right now, whereas Republicans have far surpassed where they're by 2x or 3x where they were at this time in 2020. So if Democrats aren't particularly enthused about Kamala, ask yourself, why would left-leaning independents be? If Democrats aren't jazzed about their own candidate, why would anyone else be? So I think this whole notion that independents, they'll come out for Kamala. You just watch. I'm sorry. I think that's cope. I think that's just wishful thinking. There's another possible choke point. Kamala's team are arguing. They're arguing is a very strong word. They're coping that about 10% of Republicans are defecting over to Kamala. They always say that, by the way. They said that in 2020. They said that in 2016. Oh, at least they said 20%. If I recall, 20% of Republicans were going to be voting for Hillary. Of course, they don't know that. The votes haven't been counted. But again, just ask yourself the question, why? Why would, if Democrats aren't voting for her, if Democrats aren't excited about her, why would Republicans be? If Democrats don't like her, why would Republicans like her? And then what do you know? With Pennsylvania, it's actually Trump who's getting far more of the vote count than the amount of Republicans that have already voted. And then, as you heard Cliff say it, then there is, maybe this is the final choke point that I can think of. There's the assertion that for the first time ever, it's Democrats who are waiting out, chomping at the bit to get to the polls on election day. They're going to come out in mass, and they're just going to turn this election on its head, and they're going to come out in mass on election day. And there's going to be so many Democrats who are not going to know what to do with it. Now, of course, the problem here is that Democrats historically are early voters. But the problem is that they're not coming out anywhere near the numbers they need to be coming out for Kamala. So according to this logic, then that must mean that Kamala, because she's the most popular person on the planet, that must mean they're obviously just waiting for election day. Well, we'll see. We'll certainly, just like Cliff said, we'll see. I mean, that's not something we can stop. We'll see. But I doubt it. I'm very dubious about it. Just flip it on the other end. Imagine all our voters historically vote by mail. They're not coming out, but we keep kind of whistling past the graveyard, telling ourselves, well, they'll come out on election day. They never have before, but this time it's different. Okay, what do you have to indicate that's going to be the case? What's the get out the vote structure that you have in place to get the mass amount of Democrats that would need to come out on election day to offset the mass amount of Republicans that naturally and organically come out? Now, you'll notice something very revealing here. All of these possible choke points that I'm giving you, every single one of them, all the things that could go wrong, you'll notice they are all totally conjecture. None of them are based on hard data at all. None of them. Zippo, nada. Most especially, men aren't voting. That's not hard data. That's an assertion. It's just a surmisal of how things could possibly, hopefully, if you're a Democrat, play out. And, it fits even with the 10% of Republicans who are potentially voting for her. Even if, as I understand the numbers, even if that number of Republicans crossed her, you had that many Liz Cheney Republicans, boy, she wishes she knew where they were when she was running for re-election. But even if you had that number of Republicans crossed over, given the early voting trajectories, that wouldn't be enough. And in terms of the Democrats waiting until election day, our good friend Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen, he's got polling data that found that 50% of Trump voters nationally said they can't wait, or they have yet to vote, and they're voting on election day. Only 39% of Harris voters are voting on election day. That's pretty consistent. That's why so many of the more honest Democrat operatives are starting to panic. They're seeing this massive Republican trend in early voting, and it's only going to get worse come election day. So there you have it, gang. The state of this race, as best I understand it, 4 days from the big day. We got 4 days to change the world. Let's make it happen. Over to you guys. Over to you. Over to you. Kami. Kami Lama, ROT Corp in disguise with diamonds. Crush it, Dr. Drill. Let's get ready to vote. Umbly, Darly Talkers. Yeah, Ozzy Osbourne Crazy Train plays in the background. Donna, Dina, Donna, Donna. Yeah, oh, that's great. Yeah, we're ready to go, man. Let's ready to go. If you haven't voted already, make sure you vote either today, Monday, or make sure it's you do whatever you got to do to stay in line as long as you have to on Tuesday. Bring a book, bring your iPhone, bring whatever you have to do. Bring a chair, bring a cooler, whatever you got to do. Stand in that line. That's what I'll be doing. I won't be doing, I'll be doing videos on Tuesday, obviously, but I will be gone voting on Tuesday, even in blue Delaware. Can't stop me. Mickey, hearing if Republicans don't take the House, they're going to start impeachment proceedings against Trump as soon as he takes office. What do you say? Oh, of course, that's all they have. It'll be a disaster for them. I think Trump will we'll have the Senate, so it's going nowhere. and Trump will laugh at it, and he'll executive order all around them. I don't think he's going to give it pay any attention to it. To be honest with you, I don't. That's all they have. I hate Trump. Trump sucks. Fascism, Nazism, abortion. That's it. That's all they have. Ryan, hey, Dr. Steve, I've been watching since 2016. God bless you. Thank you, Ryan. You came right at the very beginning. I remember when you predicted Trump would win in 2016. So what's your prediction for 2024? Inquiring minds want to know. I thought I just gave it to you, Ryan. I thought I just gave this is Trump's to lose. This is Trump's to lose. It does, barring the Democrats coming out in numbers we've never seen on election day. And again, we can't stop that if they've got that in the books. If that's baked into the cake, what are we going to do? But I don't see it. I don't see it in the numbers. I don't see it in the voter registration numbers where the Republicans have the advantage. I don't see it in the polling that shows that Republicans overwhelmingly plan to come out and vote on election day, whereas Democrats are way under with that. I'm just not seeing that in any of the hard data. And so it does look like this is Trump's to lose. Trump is going to pull off anywhere from 306 to 312 electoral votes. That's what it looks like. Tyler, Dr. Steve, what do you think about the shenanigans that have already been taking place this year? Pennsylvania, the incident in Michigan. How do we stop? Well, so that's why we had that's what we had Ray D'Agostino on Monday, county commissioner, because he gave us kind of an insight of how they're stopping it. The good news, the way he put it, now this was brilliant. The way he put it, nobody knew what they were doing in 2020. 2020 was unprecedented. 2020 was crazy. And nobody in like the county commissioner's office and so forth, nobody at the polls, at the precincts, nobody knew what they were doing. This was just unfathomable. And they had a lot of pressure put on them to count those votes, get them done so the Secretary of State could sign it and be done with it. And he said that's not the case this year. Everybody knows what they're doing, and that's why they're all getting caught. So I think we're good. I think we're good to go. Things were insane, ambiguous in 2020. That sanity and clarity has been restored, and we're seeing it. And then even just in the bluest of blue states, like that crazy Secretary of State and in Colorado. I mean, even she's getting caught. It's just these weird antics that she's involved in. So anyway, I think we're okay. Again, we'll see. You're right. We're all traumatized from 2020. So yeah, Jenna Griswold is coming up. When the show just started, this comment was, okay. Sorry, Josh. Getting a note that this comment just came out. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm getting notes here, and I'm telling you guys, I'm giving you guys behind the scenes detail. I think we're good. I think we're okay. We'll see. Johnny, good morning, Dr. Steve. My question was skipped last week. Have you seen what's going on in Japan? Tourists are fooling around in front of temples, kids climbing shrine structures and doing pull-ups on torii gates, making too much noise in subway trains, and even Muslims desecrating shrines. It's getting out of hand. What's going on? Is Japan still looking for a solution for their population decline? I do not know. I've been to Japan several times. They would never allow. I mean, if kids were desecrating a Shinto temple area, it would get stopped very quickly. They would not allow that. I can assure. I've seen it. Yes, you did have a fellow desecrating, a Muslim desecrating the shrines. He got caught, and it got stopped. So, are they still looking for the solution for their population decline? I'm not quite understanding the correlation between those two, but yes, they are. And only religiosity ultimately can do it. You can only bribe so many people. You're going to have to restore a sense of traditionalism. You're going to have to restore a sense of the sanctity of the family, and a kind of civilizational revival would do just that. Chip, the enlightened. There are many polls showing Republican leads over Democrats, but what about the TDS among Republicans? Are you confident that even though people are voting Republican, What if they vote Harris? Yeah, so no question, Chip. I mean, that can be the case. I'm not going to say it's impossible. That can be the case. But so much of that TDS was weeded out over the last 4 years, as we see they've all overtly moved to the Republican or moved to the Democrat Party, and it's an issue of if the Democrats are not that jazzed about their candidate, why would a Republican be? I mean, you're not going to get more TDS than a Democrat. So I just don't see it. I'm not seeing it. It may happen, but the numbers that are being posted right now, plus with the independents seeming to move over to the Republicans in the way that they are, you're going to need more than 10% to offset a 90% Republican and majority independent coalition. Michael, Dr. Steve, you've always been a bright light in times of darkness. Thank you, Michael. I have faith in a MAGA win, but am I wrong to feel a tightness in my chest until Kamala makes a concession speech? No, you're not wrong. No. Anything can happen, right? We learned that the hard way. We're all traumatized from 2020. We all are. Myself included. So, I mean, again, I think the pattern you want to be in is cautiously optimistic. We're rocking. This is great. We got a dream team behind us. All the polls are moving in our direction. Voter registration and identity is moving in our direction, and the early voting, particularly in Arizona and Nevada. You would not want to be a Democrat looking at the results in the 2 states you won in 2020. You would not be happy about those results. I mean, especially Nevada, 80,000 vote swing to Nevada, nearly 90,000 vote swing. I looked last time. So again, this election, say this to yourself over and over again, because this will help you. This will be like a soothing serenity now mantra. Kamala is hoping she can hold on to a 40,000 vote win, even though 7 million votes have swung over to Trump. That's in effect what she is trying to do. And in 2 of the states where the majority of their vote is in now, in 2 of the states where the Democrats won by Arizona, 10,000, and then Nevada, 2.5 by 2.5% in 2020. Those 2 states, they won where like upwards of 60, 70, 80% of their vote is already in those 2 states. The answer to that question or to that inquiry, can Kamala hold on to that 40,000 point lead in the midst of an electorate that shifted 4 to 6 points to the right? The answer is an emphatic no. She's already lost 2 of those states. They're gone. Arizona and Nevada. More and more people are coming out saying Nevada's gone. There's no way they're going to make up that 80,000 vote deficit. There's no way. It's 47,000. I should say 80,000 vote swing. Just no way. We'll see. I'm with you every hour, every day and so forth, but we're not seeing it. So, this is good stuff. This is good stuff, but anything can happen. That's what we learned in 2020. So cautiously optimistic. Paul, I'm still unclear about cannibalizing the vote. Can you please explain one more time? Thank you. Okay. So, so you've got, let's divide them up 50-50. You've got 10 voters. All right. 10 voters for you. So we're running for class president or something. Okay. So you've got 10 voters who say they're voting for me. Got 10 voters saying you're voting for you. Now, 5 of those voters, half of those voters, have voted in every single senior election. Right? Every single senior year election they voted. They're rerun. I don't know. Figure it out. But they voted in every single one. And then of the other 5, say only 1 voted in the last few, and the rest didn't. Okay, they didn't. They've never voted before. Okay. Now we've got early voting. And you got the second 5, the one that voted once in a bunch of these elections, and then the 4 that never voted before. You got them to vote early. They banked their vote. You've got their vote. You're up 5 right now. Okay. I'm up 5 right now as well, because all those 5 voters that voted in every single senior election over the last several years, they decided to vote early. They all voted for me. So what's left? What's left for election day in our high school? What's left? Well, what's left is on your side, you have voters who have voted in every single senior year election over the last, say, 4 years. Are they going to vote again? Sure, of course, because that's what they do. They vote. They have a stellar, what we call high propensity voting pattern. What do I have left? I got 5 people, one of whom has voted like once in the last 4 years, and the other 4 have never voted. How likely are they to vote? We don't know. We don't. Well, we do. Probably not likely. They never voted for before. Why would they vote again? Oh, I'll vote for you. I promise. Right. So that's the difference between low to no propensity and high propensity voters. You want to bank the low to no propensity voter early, because then their vote is done. It's cast. Good. All right. You can move on to not worrying about elections for a while, right? That's even Trump kind of said that, right? You can vote for me and you don't have to worry about another election kind of thing. It's just, look, just one and done, get this vote and bank. Good, great. Now on election day, we're going to crush it, because our voters who will crawl over glass to vote, who vote in every single election over the last 4 elections, they're going to come out and vote in mass, because that's what they do by definition. So if you have used up your low to no prop voters in the early vote, that saves you then a guaranteed vote to come with the high propensity voter on election day. If you used up your high propensity voters in the early vote, you frankly don't know who's going to turn out on election day, because the low to no props are unreliable by definition. They don't turn out. So it doesn't look like. So hopefully that makes sense for you. Johnny the Whiz Kid, I've been wondering about Trump's no tax on tips. Does that include super chats on YouTube and bits on Twitch? Do you know who we can ask about to bring that to Trump's attention? Great question, Johnny the Whiz Kid. I don't know. It sounds to me that's more related to the service industry, but I have no idea. That's a great question. Love how you're looking out for us. Appreciate that, Johnny. Vlad the Impaler, I sleep well at night because I decided to leave it all in God's hands. Whatever happens is his will. Amen. Beautiful. It is in God's hands. God is in control. And I pray every morning for President. I prayed for him this morning. I pray for a great victory, an unambiguous, solid victory on Tuesday. But in the end, God is our King. God is enthroned in heaven. All politics ultimately is his. The kingdom of God is the true politics. And so absolutely. I love it, Vlad. Thank you for that. Terry, I don't worry half as much about election integrity as about whether Biden will stage a false flag operation on Monday, declare martial law, and cancel the election, or whether after the last judge has crashed down his gavel on Mark Elias's fingers, our cities start burning again. So, yeah, I mean, this is the concern. This is where we are right now. We are an incredibly divided country. We do not, half the country does not trust our leadership. It's known as delegitimation. The leaders in Eastern Europe and Soviet Union found that out the hard way of what happens when a critical mass gets reached that no longer trusts you or has confidence in you. So, no, Terry, I'm with you. I could never give an apology. I couldn't give you a single reason to trust the establishment in any. I couldn't give you a reason to trust the legacy media, academia, or federal bureaucrats. They're all rotten in my view. They're broken. They exist only to exist. In other words, they exist only to maintain their own power and wealth and longevity and rule. So I'm with you. I think that would be very hard to pull off, because you still need a certain level of legitimacy to pull off something like that, and I just don't think they have it. I think it's been lost, and that act alone would be enough, I think, to bring over the timid few and give us a supermajority that we've been looking for. So I just don't see it. I don't see red states standing for it either. Texas garbage. Oh, I love it. Texas garbage man. My brother-in-law is an urban precinct worker. The early voting in Texas has been very heavy. It's been a bloodbath, I heard. In rural North Texas, it's also been very heavy. Thank you for that update, Texas garbage man. Yeah, it looks like Trump is going to crush it with at least 10, maybe 11-point margin. It's going to be very interesting to see who's more red this year. There's a possibility Florida might vote to the right of Texas. Possibility. But no, you guys you're crushing it. Texas is deeper red than ever. We're going to get this. We're going to do, and with those kind of margins in Texas and Florida, the second and third most populous states, with those kind of margins, Trump should win the popular vote. We should be able to overwhelm whatever margins he's able to get in California, which she gets in California, which are very low compared to what Biden was getting, by the way. Kevin, I'm feeling confident of the election outcome, but I have questions on the aftermath. What kind of skullduggery and booby traps the outgoing Democrats and deep state actors are going to set before they leave? I'm thinking it could be way different than pulling all of the W's off the keyboards. Yeah, we certainly oh gosh, we long for those days, don't we? Yeah, I'm with you, Kevin. I don't know. I am worried that all of the Hitler talk and fascist talk is ultimately to stoke violence, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. I don't want it to happen. I do think that will work in our favor because I think, again, those who are on the fence will see that the true threats to democracy are on the left. They are the ones who have defined for all of us what is acceptable and not acceptable political perspective and position. And they've dictated that to us. That's what elections are for. Elections determine what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. You do not get, MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski doesn't get to stare into a camera every day and expect to dictate to the rest of us what is the political lay of the land. I do not see politics from her perspective. I find her perspective clownish. I find it odious and ridiculous and devoid of any critical thinking. So when you have this rabid, frothing at the mouth group basically say, no, we define reality, political reality, and if you vote against that, you're by definition evil, and we have the right to rise up against you. They are now the tyrants by definition. So I think they'll only end up hurting themselves in the end. But I don't know what they have planned other than that. Lesson Ann, do you think the Democrats have any way to turn Texas blue, or do you think they have enough safeguards in place to minimize cheating? Thank you, Lesson Ann. God bless you guys. No way. Not even close. Not even kind of. Not even a little. Not even maybe. No. Texas will not go anywhere near blue. Now, if you're talking eventually, I would have said yes, maybe 5 years ago, before we started to see this very interesting trend. When did I start tracking with it? I got an article. I did an article I thought it was for the Imaginative Conservative, maybe for the Christian Post. I'll have to look it up. I've got it. You can look it up online. Like, I think it was called 3 Trends for a more right-wing, for more conservative future, or something like that. And I think I wrote this back in 2015 or 2016. But it had to do with Latinos starting to move to the right, noticeably to the right. Again, it takes time. Nevada has taken, Florida took time, but polling analysts saw Florida moving to the right now for the last decade. And it needed to reach critical mass, and it did. And with the Latino vote moving to the right, conservative right, anti-woke vote, anti-open border vote, a very pro MAGA, pro economic nationalism vote, I don't think we have to worry about it now. That's I would even say that even if you saw the mass amnesty of 10 to 20 million immigrants coming in, ironically, it would take time. It would set us back 20 years. But ironically, over time, they would end up becoming more and more conservative because of the religiosity that tends to mark that culture. So, or cultures, I should say. So, no, I don't think so. I don't think you have to worry about it at all. Wendy, I say this every 4 years, regardless of how the election shakes out. We all, both sides, need to be gracious. No one needs to be like the Dodgers have been. If need be, we fight the right way. I mean, a little dig there. Hey, I'm a Phillies fan, right? So I'm out of it. But my wife, being Japanese, loves Shohei-kun. She loves her. She's very, very happy for the Dodgers. But yes, absolutely, Wendy. We always have to remember the other side is the image of God, and but by the grace of God, we'd be there, and we just have to pray for them and always extend to them the very love that God extends to us. Richard, Dr. Steve, what are you doing next Monday? Next Monday, I'll be wrapping up the last bit of data that we have coming in, looking at I'm going to be giving a very, very close eye to the early vote, the last bit of early vote data that we have, and then look at it in light of the other 2 indicators of voter registration and identification trends and polling. So that's what I'll be doing. Bill, hello, Dr. Steve. First, we had the mugshot, then the Butler, Pennsylvania rally photo, then the McDonald's window photo, now the garbage truck. I have never in my life ever seen a presidential campaign like this. It's been a lot of fun for the most part. Do you care to reflect back on the 2024 election run? Thank you and your staff for all you do. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, well, the iconic element to it has been unbelievable. Yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, in many ways for me, this has been going on now for 4 years. We've been waiting for this day for 4 years. We were under enormous pressure, particularly after J6, to turn our backs on Trump. We were under enormous pressure by the Republican powers that be, that many of whom are gone now, thank God. Can you imagine Ronna McDaniel running this election? Could you even imagine that kind of disaster? Thank God for Mike Whatley and Lara Trump. We were under tremendous pressure to turn our backs on Trump, even by a lot of influencers saying that, the future is Ron DeSantis or Rand Paul or Ted Cruz and on this channel, and if you guys have been with us, we made a very concerted, very deliberate, very intentional decision. No effing way. We are not turning our backs on that man. The future is his. He is the future of the Republican Party. He represents it, a nationalist, populist, traditionalist party that is itself reflective of a civilizational populism that's happening all over the world. And we're not abandoning him. We're behind him 100%. And we've been that way. And I think all of our, when you did see a lot of other influencers chasing after the siren song of other alternatives to Trump, we never once did. Never once. I love Ron DeSantis. I think he's a great guy, but we were offered, we got our Trump bobbleheads in the back here. We were offered a Ron DeSantis bobblehead to advertise. We said, no, we don't want it. You know what? We're all Trump. We're 100% Trump. This is during the primaries. Nope. It's not, hey, either Trump or DeSantis, take your pick. No, it's Trump or bust. 100% Trump. DeSantis could not remotely galvanize and affect the political realignment among the working class that we're seeing happening around Trump. No one could do that like Trump. No one could galvanize the national Latino vote around him like Trump. And no one could galvanize the young black male vote like Trump. And he's proven it. And he's amassed the single biggest Republican coalition we have ever seen, I would say, really since 1988. We've never seen anything like this at all. And by the way, that coalition split in 92, where half or 20% of them went with the populists. They went with a Pat Buchanan-like populist in the form of Ross Perot. That's split because Bush decided to go full neocon. They gave him another chance in 2000, 2004 and said, enough. We're not, this party is not the party of Cheney and Bolton. We're done with it. So no one could come close to transforming this political party into a nationalist, populist, traditionalist party, the party of the civilizational populism that is taking over the world. That's the title of my book, how Trump and the MAGA movement are changing the world. So it's all about civilizational populism, how civilizational populism is the politics of the future. And Trump, more than any other establishment Republican, Trump was the one who can change us and take us there. Careful with the YouTube guidelines. Josh is telling me that was 10 minutes ago. What did I do? I don't think I got any. I didn't say anything mean or bad. I didn't push it. So anyway, so there you go, guys. I think we had a chance to abandon him. We said no way. And hopefully you guys have recognized we've been true to that for the last 4 years. So this Tuesday is, again, I got to say, no matter what happens, every bit of it was worth it. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, no matter what happens. I think something great and glorious is going to happen on Tuesday. But no matter what happens, we're 100% behind him. And we will continue to be going forward. Rock dog, Dr. Steve, since the early voting numbers in Virginia are better than when Youngkin won in 21. How is Trump not winning Virginia? I know he's winning all swing states. And since he always overperforms his polls, I think he's winning New Mexico, New Hampshire, Minnesota, Virginia, and New Jersey. Thoughts? All right. So what's going on with Virginia? Well, he's doing amazing. Two things. Gubernatorial races and presidential races are different. So gubernatorial success does not predict success in a presidential run or a presidential. Again, just ask Ron DeSantis that, or Chris Christie, or Mitt Romney for that matter, right? Scott Walker. So the dynamics of voting, even Massachusetts will periodically vote for a Republican governor. They will never vote for a Republican president, like ever, at least not since 1984. So that's number one. Number two, it just comes down to the swing. So if we're looking at a 4 to 6 point swing to Trump, well, kiss goodbye. Kamala could kiss goodbye Arizona. She could kiss goodbye Nevada, where Biden won by 2.5. She can kiss goodbye Georgia. She could kiss goodbye Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. It's harder with Virginia when Biden won by 10. It's harder. Trump could bring that down to a 4. If we go a 4 to 6 swing, he could bring it down to 4, but that's a 10-point swing to Trump is huge. That's huge. So that's what you're wrestling against. Now, that's if we have a 2020 norm. If our baseline is 2020. If our baseline is 2016, Hillary won Virginia by 5. So that's our baseline. If that's our baseline, then it's possible. If Trump swings Virginia 6 points, yeah, he wins. He wins by a point. So it just comes down to what your baseline is. Generally speaking, your baseline is the previous election. The previous election was obviously a little screwy. So just unprecedented in terms of its numbers and all that. So maybe we can be more generous and say, okay, in a normal election, Biden would have won Virginia by 7 in 2020. Okay, 4 to 6 point swing to Trump. It's still Harris by a couple of points. So Republicans are crushing it. There are a lot of Republicans on the ground in Virginia who think we can take Virginia, but that would be a massive swing. It can happen. I'm not saying it can't. It's, first of all, we don't need Virginia. That's why a lot of people are. Trump is going. Isn't he speaking? I think in Richmond. So he'll be in Virginia. He's making a play for Virginia. He's making a play for New Hampshire, Maine. Minnesota's actually, again, it's a lower hanging fruit. I forgot by how much Biden won Minnesota. Was it 6, 7? But Hillary only won it by 2, a little over 2, just like the way Biden won Nevada. So, I think we might actually see Minnesota turn before we see Virginia turn, just because of the margins when all said and done. So that's it. Bottom line, it's a numbers game. Richard, Dr. Steve, your thoughts on Elon eliminating government waste? I salivate. I literally salivate at the idea of Elon getting his hands on government waste. I mean, waste. It would be astonishing. And I don't, again, it's just so brilliant. These are our new aristocrats, the aristopopulism that Aristotle recommended as the ideal society. You want your aristocrats to use their power and influence to realize the values, interests, and concerns of the people. Otherwise, you're left with aristocrats that hate the people and rule them in an oligarchy, or the people rise up and chop their heads off in mob rule, as per the French Revolution. So I think Elon coming in and just totally slashing government waste would be just, it would be, talk about golden age. It would be astonishing. Kami, you're back. Dr. Turley, ROT Corp here, trying a new username for the next couple live streams. Hope you like it. I do, my friend. Joe Rogan interviewed Trump last week. Tim Cass interviewed Trump at the Republican National Convention. Will Turley talks to a presidential interview. I can see it now. So can I. I would love it. I've met him once. It was an honor to have met him at Mar-a-Lago when I met Rosie O'Donnell. Roseanne Barr, Rosie O'Donnell. I think Trump and Rosie O'Donnell. Roseanne Barr, she was a dream to meet. Because I followed her career since I was a kid when she was on Carson. So I've always been an admirer of hers. So no, I'm with you. Hopefully by God's grace, we'll be able to do it. And we'll see what we can do. I'd love it. Kevin, I know I've asked you this before, but I still can't figure out how in the world can we still have so many mind wipe, death cult, sociopath, Democrat supporting people left with the accurate fact-based information that has come out in spite of the media. What can be done to help them? Yeah. What can be done to help them? What a good question. I don't know. In the end, look, we all have what's technically called a cosmovision. That's Clifford Geertz, the cultural anthropologist, called it a cosmovision. What some call it a worldview and so forth. And it's shaped largely by our society, not entirely, but largely by our society. And part of our civilization has effectively controlled the way people think. And the scary part about that is what happens is you lose touch with reality, with dimensions of reality that are so important for our human flourishing. And it's bizarre because I see it even in the arts. Heck, I see it primarily in the arts. So what is art? Art is the tangible, material, substantial embodiment of the eternally true, good, and beautiful. That that aims at opening up and awakening our perspective on reality to encountering that true, that good, and that beautiful. So over the summer, when I went to the Sistine Chapel, my favorite artworks, I used to study it as a kid. I was a weird kid. I liked architecture. I liked cathedrals. I liked Michelangelo and Sistine Chapel. When I walked in there, I got choked up. I mean, I'm feeling it now. Even as when I saw it for the first time, I'm 55 years old, and my favorite art piece in the world I saw for the first time. And when I walked in, my eyes, of course, go up to the ceiling to look, especially for the God touching Adam, one of the great iconic pieces of all. And my eyes go up, and that is what happened to myself. I remember I felt a sweetness in my mouth. It was synesthetic, as we call it, where your various senses actually overlap. So you like see the colors of music, right? Or you taste the visual around you. And my soul, I just found myself just so drawn to the eternal, so drawn to the true and the good, and everything. I mean, there's crowds all around me. I felt like I was the only person in the chapel in many respects, until a guard yelled. I can still remember the silencio. I remember that. People were getting too loud. So he'd said over a loudspeaker, and I remember that kind of broke it up. But what that was it was art doing what art is supposed to do. It's awakening me to the civilizational splendor of reality. And that civilization here on earth is but a faint reflection of the infinite, eternal civilization, celestial civilization of God, the Narnia within the Narnia, as it were. And the modern world has done such a phenomenal job of cutting people off from that, of getting them just obsessed with some of the most trivial, banal, sexual, pathetic images and music and sitcoms imaginable, and dumbing them down to the point where they lose touch with the grandeur and the splendor of reality. And it's so, to me, it's sad, because then they become manipulable. They can be coerced. And if the powers that be need to work them up into a zombie frenzy army, well, what we found is they can do it. We saw that in the summer of 2020. They can do it. Because they don't relativize things, disappointments and anger and injustices, to this larger vision of the true, the good, and the beautiful. That's always true. That's the beauty of it. No matter what happens in this world, the eternal, the infinite, the divine is always true. It's a truth that cannot ever be shattered by what happens in this world. So I just think so many people have lost that in our modern, technocratic, materialist, mechanistic world. And it's sad. Yeah, and like I said, even many in the art community, because art has just been, visual art's been reduced to just activism at this point. It's just ugly. It's goofy. And musicians, while they're still, I think, hyper sensitive to the emotional, because that's fundamentally what music is. Music makes the invisible visible to us, tangible. We don't see music. We don't see what we hear. And it makes human emotion and divine emotion ring out and resonate around us, while musicians are very, very hyper focused and sensitive to the deep meanings of sound. It's at the expense of everything else. That's another thing. We tend to be hyper specialized in the modern society, in a technocratic society. So we have brain surgeons who can't follow an argument. We're hyper specialized today. Specialization means we can have brilliant brain surgeons who are mechanics. But if you think about it, that's what a brain surgeon is. They're mechanics, just very, very bright, very, very advanced mechanics dealing with a very advanced organism. But you can have these amazingly brilliant brain surgeons who are voting for Kamala. They can't follow an argument. That's hyper specialization, and that's part. And in a traditional university sense, in its classical sense, in the Greek sense, in the ancient Greek sense, in the medieval sense, where the university started in medieval monasteries, it was trying to find the unity in diversity, so that we can always, no matter what skill or trade we developed in our own lives, whatever specialty, it's always understood as participating in the logos, in the true, the good, and the beautiful. And so we always had a sense of reality placed in front of us, ideally. And so there you go. I mean, I could go on and on with it, but I think that's, and what can be done to help them? We have to win, and we have to transfigure our nation and see an American Renaissance. And hopefully we could see an end, a final end to the frothing at the mouth, lunatic, psychopath, woke liberal. Bob, would you agree that the numbers from Arizona could push Kari Lake over the top? Oh, absolutely. No, I think Kari's going to do it. Right now, with these margins that are coming out with Arizona, I think Kari's going to do it. Kari's rocking. I'm very excited about Kari. She'll make an amazing senator. That'll just be, oh man, that's going to be the icing on the cake. Vlad, whenever I hear Kamala speak, I think of that Billy Madison clip about awarded no points. I award you no points. Everyone in this room is now dumber for what they just heard from what you just said. May God have mercy on your soul. That's so true. Oh, I can't say. Can you imagine listening to her voice for the next 4 years? Ugh. Patriot Jules, please pray for me and all poll workers working on that 23-hour day. Yeah. Also, please remember, in Illinois, you need 2 black judge signatures and 2 red signatures. If your ballot doesn't have red, it will be tossed at the end of the night. It's what they did in 2020. It sounds like you're saying they need 2 black judges. That's right. I don't know. I don't think that's what you mean. But yes, whatever. Yeah, 2 black signatures and 2 red signatures. Got it, Patriot Jules. Got it. All right. God bless you, Patriot Jules. Thank you for volunteering. And that long, long day. God bless you. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, classic liberals like Jimmy Dore are calling for Harris. I can't even pronounce it. Chlamydia Harris for the war criminal Cheney's endorsement, calling her campaign and the 3rd G.W. Bush term. Yes, yeah. Do you think these guys calling out the hypocrisy may hurt the Democrat plantation numbers? Maybe with independents and with disaffected Democrats, but no, I think unfortunately most Democrats today are just they drank the Kool-Aid and they're all in. They see Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney coming over to them as just confirmation that they're in the right. So even Dracula can come on and the bride of Dracula can come on over and join our side and see the light. There's hope for everyone, kind of. That's the way they're treating it. So no, I think they're all going with it. It's going to be the more dissident Democrat, the disaffected Democrat, the homeless Democrat, the Democrat that was not happy the way 2020 rolled out in terms of, and 2021 rolled out in terms of the vaccines and the mandates and the like. They'll definitely leave as a result of Liz Cheney. Dr. Steve, having a 7 million voter swing, it's no wonder that the federal government was trying to stop Virginia from purging the non-citizen voter registrations. Thank God for consecutive SCOTUS. Yet 3 judges voted against it. You thought, yeah, I thank you, Bill. I just think they're post-American when all is said and done. I cannot even fathom how they could possibly vote in favor of keeping non-citizens on the voting rolls. I can't even. They just have to believe that we've entered into a post-American age where citizenship doesn't matter when all's said and done. Ryan, Dr. Steve, do you believe when Kamala loses, do you believe she will concede or fight to recount to keep it going for days? I don't know. Honestly, Ryan, I don't know. I don't know what to expect from her and her camp. Again, part of the insane rhetoric of calling him Nazi and fascist and garbage, and now Mark Cuban saying, all he does is hang around dumb women, and I think part of that is to justify actively fighting against him. That to me is what I think is what's really behind that. So we'll see. I don't know. I can't. Our job is to get Trump over the finish line. That's our job. Then we'll have to fall off that bridge when we get. We'll have to see what shenanigans are going to try to pull, to try to delegitimize the win. And that is it. I love you, gang. You're the best. So this weekend, you know what to do, right? Fix on one thing. Ultimately, bottom line, can Kamala hold on to a 40,000 vote lead, even though the entire electorate has switched 4 to 6 points to Trump? I don't think so. So we'll see what goes, but get all your friends to vote, right? Everyone's saying find 4 friends, particularly in swing states, find 4 friends, get out there and vote. And let's do this, guys. Let's make this amazing. I love you all. God bless.